So nice to see. Hello, honey. How are you? Is it on? Oh. You think I'd know these things by now. Hi. Hello, everybody.
Thank you all for coming.
Yes, thank you very much.
Obviously, Judith does not need a lot of introduction after that episode. Oh my God.
Thank you.
When they asked me to come and talk to you about this episode, I was like, oh, you want me to talk for half an hour about how great she is in this episode? No problem.
Thank you. Thanks.
I mean, I have the email record to prove it. There are FX executives that we could summon. I mean, when I saw this episode, I was completely taken. I saw it on a screener before Versace premiered, and I was completely taken from the get-go. Darren, Criss, oh my God.
Amazing. Incredible.
Commitment to a performance.
Oh.
Wow. But then I'm binging them, and all of a sudden episode 3 comes in, and I'm already recognizing that it was, this was an elevated work, just incredible writing, directing, acting. But then this episode comes in, and I'm like strapped in to my, I'm not kidding, just from the minute you come up and you're in the QVC setting, and I'm sure there were probably viewers figuring, wait a minute, how did my channel go from FX to QVC? From the minute that you are on screen as Marilyn, you just embody this woman, mannerisms, facial tics, the way she touches her face, the way she bristles but tries to make it look like she's not bristling, the way it is just, and when I say like from the very minute the episode comes up, because you're doing things in that scene that we see later, I need to stop babbling about how great you are and let you start.
No, that's okay. You can go on.
I can
That's
babble.
all right.
You and I talked, we cheated a little bit because we talked a couple of weeks ago
did.
about it, and you told me that you didn't, although Marilyn Miglin, real person, there exists footage of her, you specifically did not go look at any of it. Tell me how you came to your process of embodying this character.
I first of all, thank you so much.
I mean it so much, I can't even tell you.
I really appreciate it. I chose not to look at anything about her because I don't think that's my job. I'm not here to do. I'm always worried that if someone is still alive, that you are not doing them accurately. And remember, this is a portrayal of her, and so I just felt that also. There was a kind of invasion because of this story and her life, and I felt very deferential in some way about her. And I didn't want to copy her or have it end up being a copycat of her because the script was so good. Tom Rob Smith wrote such a wonderful script and really gave me the landscape and the map to follow, and I had two wonderful directors. Gwyneth Horder-Payton did most of the shooting, and then Dan Minahan did, when we went to Chicago, he did some of it. And then they had me come back, and they added another episode, so they put me in episode 9.
Right, the finale episode.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And so, I just felt that it was really important not to have her in my purview as I was creating her, because I already had enough tools. The hair, makeup, and wardrobe people were extraordinary. And Ryan has to sign off on all of that. I mean,
Ryan Murphy.
And Ryan Murphy,
the
sorry,
sort of
yes.
Uber showrunner of
the Uber showrunner.
The American Crime Story franchise.
That is right. That would be that Ryan Murphy.
That's technical variety talk. We literally call people Uber showrunners. There's about 10 of them, and he's one of them.
He's definitely one of them. Yeah. So I knew that I was in good hands, and I didn't have to go to that place in order to do that.
How did you, in terms of, again, the look, the feel of, you can really sense in the character, you can sense determination, but a certain level of insecurity. And boy, by the time you get deep into that episode, I was watching it, and I watched it again, and it's just like, you're just trying to decide, how much does she know? She must know some intuitively about her husband's other life. It's clearly that they love each other. It's just you and Mike Farrell. It's just so painful to watch this relationship unfold on screen. how on earth? I mean, you guys didn't even have the luxury of it being a pilot where you at least had the time to live with it a while. I mean, you came in, this is a one-off episode, and how you and Mike Farrell did what you did within 30 seconds of the episode starting is just astounding to me.
Thanks.
Did you guys talk together?
We talked on set. We that's all we had. He's an extraordinary artist, an actor, and human being. And so his openness to discuss everything, and we did it as quickly as we could. You know, you don't have a lot of time in television. And I got the part very quickly. And had to change my whole schedule around. And so we didn't really have time to talk. But there was, again, I go back that there was this whole team of people that you really felt were working with you on all of this. So we felt incredibly supported. What I say about her insecurity, how much did she know? People talk about that a lot. There are places with people in their relating where they don't want to know something. They don't let themselves know. You can tell that there is something in there that she knows, that she feels, but it is never spoken and between them. And that's the deepest sorrow for me and the gratification that I have that this piece was done, because we're talking about the community, the LGBTQ community at that time. And I think that was one of the things that was really important to Ryan, was to portray what was happening in the culture. And when the culture shoves people into the closet, when it is a culture that is not welcoming or open in any way, that this man would feel that he had to live this kind of life is so devastating. And I think that's the devastation a lot that people feel. Whether it's true or not, we don't know. But if things had been different and the police had related to this killer differently, these killings may not have had to happen. And that's what I say a lot. And it's just, that's part of what's so deeply disturbing to me. And I think what Ryan was doing was trying to educate people to that period of time that we all know and lived. My darling friend Howard Rosenman is here, and he did, he's the producer of Call Me By Your Name. So we have a, yes, right, yeah. So, of course. So we have that kind of, I mean, that understanding and knowing and knowledge and education about that time. And I think that's what's so important and valuable about this piece.
And it becomes clear, it's made clear in later episodes too, that part of, you know, the Miglin family's insistence that this was a random robbery and didn't have anything to do, it literally probably impeded the law enforcement
There's no question.
investigation and could have saved lives. And even to the very end, spoiler alert, you know, the willingness of law enforcement at the expense of potentially, you know, solving an investigation, the willingness to, like, you know, deflect to the family's wishes is pretty amazing when you're talking about, you know, 5 dead bodies.
Yes, exactly. I mean, denial is part of the way our society functions, which is the deepest sorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little more. Let's sort of break it down. One of the scene, I think it's just before the credits come up, that kills me is when you're standing in the doorway and you look at the ice cream, the thing of ice cream on the counter, and you don't speak that much in the opening, which is again testament to all that you did with your body and your face and your expressions. But that look, the first time I saw it, before I knew what was happening, that look on your face, and it's so beautifully shot. You looking at that ice cream and you just know. I mean, anybody watching that knows something ominous is about to happen. Can you talk about the emotions that you summoned when you were shooting that scene?
Again, it was all in the script. And also, I read Maureen Orth's book, and Maureen talks a lot about what had happened. It's the
Vulgar Favors, the
yes.
book. The Vanity Fair journalist wrote a terrific book in relatively in the day about Cunnanan's killing spree, and was a big source material for the series.
And a lot of people didn't know about the other killings. They didn't know that there was a progressive serial nature to all of this. But I didn't know about Lee Miglin. I knew about Versace, and I was really dumbstruck by that killing. But I didn't know what had preceded that, and that's why I think the genius of them shooting it backwards. Turning it around, I thought was just incredibly brilliant. But that moment, again, it was so delineated in the script. There was such a roadmap to be able to follow, so that I was able to take it all and translate it. And I also knew, and Gwyneth said to me, the director said to me, she said, everything is under the surface. We're not seeing anything here. There's that moment, and it's in the script, where you see the shot of her fingernails, those very well manicured fingernails tapping on the counter. Again, it was the same thing. It was like she had me just keep very, very still. So for me as an actor, what the thing that when I'm asked to sit on something, it lives even more voluminously inside of me. So you're not seeing it here, but at some level you're feeling it rather than necessarily seeing it.
Oh my God. And Marilyn has, again, credit to you, because within a minute we feel like we know who this woman is. I mean, Marilyn is just so, with her suits and her brooches and her,
They made those suits for me in a day. I mean, you're talking about a group of people that Ryan has, that he works with, that are just, I mean, who can do that? I took a year in shop to make a vest. I mean, I'm like, really? Okay, I just came out. Okay, I have no sewing ability whatsoever. And I'm literally, I mean, they lined those suits. They were all lined in the most beautiful fabrics. It was just astonishing.
And how much did those
Totally.
accessories help you really feel?
Always. Everybody stands up and gets an award and they say, I didn't do this alone. No kidding, you don't do it alone. This was an entire group of people that came together to really just give everything that was necessary, that gave me all the feeling that I needed to do. I need to do my own homework, but their connection to me, their addition, it's quite a remarkable thing to see and feel that kind of teamwork happening.
Yeah, the Ryan Murphy really does seem like one of the closest things we have to the old studio system. He has
no question.
He has his stable of artisans
that
are truly.
Yeah, and they are truly incredible artists, and that goes down to the grip and the focus puller. And so everybody is making that production. That's not just me. It's like you said, it's shot beautifully. That's right. Gwyneth has a vision of it. She talks to me about what she wants. The script is there, and there are people that I believe that when we work together as a team, we're working together in a much more expansive way. The energy of that kind of working can translate through the screen. So if I'm talking to the camera operator, he's not just the camera operator, he's the other person in the scene. We're working together. If I say to him, okay, where do you need me? Where do you want me to look? What are we doing? And let's do this together, so that we have eyes on each other. And that makes a real difference. And those are the kinds of people that he has working on the team.
Yeah, I'm sure exuding a level of confidence that makes you, especially in your role, coming in for one major episode and a little bit more, to be able to come in and do that quickly.
And I don't think they expected this to be what it became. So I would say that it was due to everybody's work.
It just elevated.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And again, credit to you. And Mike Farrell is such a wonderful, it's such a great, just a great showcase for him, to show all that he can do.
He's amazing. And we had to dance together, so they gave us dancing lessons, and he swore he didn't know how to dance, and I said, you know how to dance. You do. Yeah, he was really sweet.
Was there anything in that episode or the later scene that you shot, anything that was particularly hard for you to get, or a particularly just a hard shoot? Any
Yeah, there
memories?
was. They had. There's this scene that you saw back in front of the mirror, where she's taking off the makeup, and that scene was actually longer. They cut it up a lot, and there were lots of long monologues in that scene. And I said to my agent, "Listen, the Emmys are the night before," and you know the story, right? And I had to be at the Emmys the night before, and I said, "Listen, I'm staying in to shoot this," and I was in the middle of doing a one-person show down at the Lucille Ortel Theater, and I had to get back to LA. But here was the thing. Oh wait, was I? Yeah. So I said to them, "Can you please not have them see if they can not do that big scene the day after the Emmys?" You don't ever ask that stuff. You know what happens. Okay, can they maybe make the call not so early, like, 5 o'clock? Yeah, you got it. That was difficult. That was, you wanted to know what was the most difficult. Except there was not a person on that set that did not find a way to be there and support me doing that. Every single person. I could feel their energy and could use their energy, and it was extraordinary. I mean, it was like, oh, I'm so glad we did it on this day. So, yeah.
Yeah, sometimes when you're down is when you find that, or you're tired, you find that reserve.
Right, or you rely on other people. That's what we're here to do. We rely on each other as human beings. So when you have that availability and people who are really generous, it's a very blessed space to live in, I think.
In total, how much filming on this episode? 7 days, 8 days?
No, it was more than that because we did it in LA and then we had to go to Chicago to do the exteriors. And then they brought me back in November for one day, which was going to be the sort of the completion of it. They were going to put me in, in the 9th episode, I think just randomly looking at him being caught. But then I had to go back in February. And they gave me a lot more to do, which was in the 9th episode. And so in that 9th episode, I had to do that all in one day. So it turned out to be more than that. So I'd say maybe 10 days altogether, 15 days altogether.
They didn't want to let you go. It was just too again, it's just the rendering of a character, and of course starts on the page and the director, but until you stepped onto that set in that pink suit, it was still on the page, and you brought her to life in a way that was just so touching for the audience.
Thank you. I really appreciate your generosity with me. I really do.
I so mean it. I'm gonna spread the wealth here, and there's got a couple of questions from the audience. Lisa Thornbloom asks, have you ever had trouble connecting with the character, and if so, what did you do to break through to their truth?
Oh, that's such a good question. I don't know that I've ever had difficulty getting through. Actually, there's one experience that I had. I was doing a play here at the Manhattan Theater Club, and it was a play called The Assembled Parties, and it was being directed by a woman named Lynn Meadow, who runs the Manhattan Theater Club, and I was doing this scene with Jessica Hecht, who has become a dear friend, as has Lynn, and there was this long monologue in the first act. I could not get it. And what Lynn did was, and what Jess did, was they just sat there with me while I worked through it over and over and over again. Talk about teamwork. And one of the things that I always look for in the character is, what is it that I'm blocking that's keeping me from getting myself there? So all of that work I had to do myself privately, and that's the thing that I think makes a difference. That when you have good people that you get to work with, and also if you do your own homework about what it is that's blocking you. I remember years ago when I was first on the soap opera, and I was working on this scene, and I had said to my manager at the time, I can't get this. What's going on? And I said, is it the writing or is it me? He said, it's you. I took that to heart. You know what? It's always you. It's always you. It's like somebody sat there and worked as hard as they could to the best of their ability, no matter what it is. That whole phrase about this writing is shit, it's like, that's not true. There are other ways to get at it, to go around it. And so what he was talking to me about was I wasn't being open or vulnerable enough to show a part of myself that I didn't want to show. He said, you don't want people to see you as a bitch. And he said, so it's standing in your way of getting to the character. And he was absolutely right. And I took it to heart and worked my way through it. There's always a way to go to something that you can get to emotionally that overrides something else that you're thinking about. I find for myself, if you're in your head, it's not going to work at some level.
I think it sounds to me like you're for somebody who is emotionally and mentally open on that level. It's almost like you can work out some of your own issues while you're working out. Your part.
Yes, that's possible, but going to therapy is a much better way to do that. I would definitely wholeheartedly recommend it. And you also don't want to have to be the person who is like really miserable at craft service and treating people like shit.
Yeah.
So
No shortcuts.
it's really better to work that out elsewhere.
You mentioned your early days on a soap opera. If I'm not mistaken, it was One Life to Live.
Yes, that's right.
Good to know the legacy is strong.
Yeah.
Would you many actors have said that soaps are grueling but terrific training. Would you agree?
I would agree with both of those.
Both statements,
It is intensely grueling. But if you have a storyline like I had, which was, I was on, many times 5 days a week with a lot to learn, says sometimes 60 pages a night. And I had not wanted to do a soap, and I've talked about this a million times, but the real value of that was taking the job that I didn't want to take, because I kept looking at it with real dissent and prejudice, and it wasn't what I should be doing. So it was all about my ego, and was I going to be like, what was I going to be doing? Was I going to do a soap opera? And so it was the thing that was one of the first transformations that I had about the way I looked at myself and who I was being. And I didn't like who I was being. I thought I was being condescending and patronizing to a section of our business that had great value and that a lot of people watched and appreciated. And who was I to be saying this is no good? And so it taught me a lot about myself and about the way that I was viewing what I thought I should be doing in my career. Somebody just said to me recently, listen to the universe about everything. She knows what she's doing. And it's like there was a sense of that changed everything for me. And then I worked with all of these extraordinary actors, and I was like so appreciative of the work that they were doing, and also appreciative of the people who have watched me for so long. It was like, who was I to look at it like that? Grueling, yes, and absolutely extraordinary training. I mean, really amazing training. Because you've got to get to something quickly, you've got to exercise certain muscles, you've got to know that you've got to be connecting with your with everybody on the set. They're the people that are going to get you through it. It's really remarkable stuff. Anyway.
That sounds like an important lesson
Very
early on in your
important,
career.
very early on, and very important.
Now that you're on the
I'm old.
I mean, well on the other end of the established spectrum,
Right.
How do you choose roles? I mean, right now with so much TV production, TV alone, so much production going on, your phone's ringing off the hook. You've recently been on The Good Fight. You've got a couple of movies coming up. Of course, you've got you're returning to Transparent. Mm-hmm. How do you decide?
I listen to my people that I work with. I ask the question, I live in the question, is this, I've said this a lot, I think we're in a service business. I think our job is to give, it's not to get. And in the getting, it's the kind of acquiring and the kind of, it's a different attitude, it's a different come from. If the question is this what I'm to do? Is this the next thing for me to do to be of service in some way? Am I doing that? And I swear that every time I ask that question and I say, what's my intuition about that? I always have the answer. I think the world is friendly, perfect in many ways if we listen in that way. But if I try to figure it out from up here, I'm absolutely lost. Is it going to do this for me? Is it going to do that for me? Is it going to? It's like me. It's not. No, that's not. It doesn't work. And I have to remind myself. I have to reel myself back in, and I have to say, okay, wait a minute. What is it? How am I to serve? What is the next thing I am to do that will be of value in some way? Whether I'm talking about it in terms of the press, or whether I'm to meet certain people that I'm to meet to work with. And that's how I choose. And I listen to the guidance of the people who I have as part of my team, and then I make the decision. And I just don't think you can make the wrong decision. It's like if you're trying to make a decision rather than make a choice, it locks you in. If you're making a choice and you're coming from service, it's a whole different come from.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a great way of thinking for any profession. That's fantastic.
I think so too.
Well,
for life, which is more important, that's the top note, is who are you being in your life, not how are you getting ahead in a career. Life is the context. The career goes in as the content.
Well, and in the world of karma, as you told me, when you got the call to play the role of Marilyn, you couldn't. The schedule initially didn't work for you because you were speaking at the World AIDS.
I was
Congress?
opening the AIDS conference in Washington, D.C. For the Elizabeth Taylor AIDS Foundation, and I could change everything on the schedule that had been instituted at that time. I was unwilling to change that. And I said, of anybody in the world who will understand that I have to be in Washington to do that, it's going to be Ryan Murphy. And it was Ryan Murphy. He said, of course, you will do that. And then you will come to us. And then we will take you under our wing and we will whisk you away and nobody will see you for a month and a half. But that was the truth. It's like, I think if you live in the truth of what you know and you're not demanding something, that people want to support you. And they did.
Yeah. And I mean, not just that one event, but you have done incredible charitable work on behalf of many AIDS organizations for a very long time, and there's some karma there.
Well, I think my darling friend, I think my other friend Scott Campbell is here today, who is the head of the Elton John AIDS Foundation, and so I do like to do a lot of work with them as well. They're very important to me. So.
Excellent. I'm going to give the last question to Kenyatta Simpson, who has a very simple one. With reboots and revivals being the mania in TV, would you be game to do Who's the Boss?
A lot of people have asked about whether we would be game. I just don't think it's going to happen. I really don't. I think there are pieces. Oh, so sweet. You know what's lovely about Who's the Boss for me now is that I didn't really know what that show was doing at the time. And part of that was because it was a popular hit, but it was not a critical hit. But that show was the beginning of the cusp of the way women were coming into the workplace. And it was the start of that. And I have so many young people who come up to me and say, that character was my role model. She was my role model because she was in the workplace and there was a man who was at home. And it was interesting. That all hats off to ABC. They were the ones that changed around that dynamic. So I just don't know that it's as timely as it was at that time. And I just don't know that would happen. I mean, I love every one of them. They're all extraordinary. But and we're all busy. We're all doing other things. So I think we're going to probably move on from that, but that's my thought about it right now. Life is interesting. The universe is vast. Things can change.
I think the universe has to respect that decision. Thank you so much, Judith. Thank you all
so
for
much.
coming.
Thanks, everybody.